a Dear Media original podcast.
Hi, welcome to Good Instincts. I'm Shira Barlow, but you may know me as the food therapist. Join me every Monday through Friday for bite-sized episodes designed to help you close the gap between where you are right now and where you want to go. This should feel good, like really good. And it will, I promise. Today's episode is our 100th episode, and I'm feeling really proud and I'm feeling grateful. And it is such a privilege to be able to do this and be helpful and of service in this way. And it means a lot to me. Today, we're just going to be thinking back to some of my favorite episodes. So to kick it off, there was the Therapy Jeff episode. Therapy Jeff is someone that I really look up to, and I look up to him for a really balanced approach to therapy. And I loved his take on self-compassion. I thought it was really sweet and really funny. And he said, if we can, to try and look at our flaws as kind of adorable. He told us that he loses his keys constantly. And he made this joke about if you're dating him, you get to join him on this adorable little treasure hunt to find his personal items like his keys and his wallet and his glasses. And of course, it was a joke, but I do love the way he spoke about it. I think so many of us fear that if we are too self-compassionate, then we'll kind of lose our edge and we won't get anywhere. But it's really quite the opposite, because we all have roadblocks and we all have things that come up that trip us up. And it's how we respond to ourselves in those moments, how we pivot off those roadblocks, that determines if we actually do close the gap between what we want and the choices that we make daily. And I really believe that. The next that I just loved a lot was the future self stuff and the future self episode, because I nerd out so hard over the research. Much of it was done by Hal Hershfield. And the thing that I love about the future self stuff is that it is the content that gets referenced back to me most often in daily life. People are constantly talking about, I'm going to do my future self a favor by making this really thoughtful choice now. And for anyone that missed the episode, the research starts off with, again, from Hal Hershfield, showing us that many people view their future selves as completely different people. Because of that, it's really hard to make thoughtful food choices right now, and just health choices in general. Because making thoughtful food choices and health choices sometimes involves foregoing something we want right now or behavior we want to do right now in service of a long-term reward we can reap later on, we have to be really connected to our future selves. Without that connection, it's really hard to want to do our future self a favor, whether that's prepping some food ahead of time or flossing or deciding to make a really conscious indulgence versus a balls to the wall indulgence. We can do that by visualizing our future self in a really detailed way. In the research, they also did this by looking at photos that were aged versions of themselves that had been done digitally. But there's also the Instagram filter where you can see yourself as an older person. So if you're into that, check that out. I also have an extreme soft spot for the Scrappy A Meals episode and the Demystifying Meal Prep episodes, because I'm such an advocate for having some really easy go-to things that you can really assemble in a matter of 20 minutes or less. A lot of people have been doing the reverse braised chicken technique. And if you are a chicken lover and you miss this, I'm going to say it again because I really believe in it. So I do mine in my Instant Pot. I take chicken thighs, I salt them, I submerge them in water up to the line, and I basically pressure cook them for 10 minutes. I do natural release, and then it's basically poached shredded chicken. I then, a lot of times, will save some of that to throw in tacos or frittatas or salads or sandwiches for my son Oliver. But I also will then do what I call a reverse braise, which is then I'll take that shredded chicken and I'll throw that on the stovetop with a little bit of olive oil, and I'll take cumin and paprika and a little bit of salt. I'll crisp that up, and then I'll have that with tahini and cucumbers and tomatoes. I say it again because people are really loving that one, and it saves my butt weekly. And the last, and certainly not least, I wanted to highlight was the Sarah Nicole episode. She talked about this time that her husband had touched the loose skin on her stomach when they were snuggling. And it was kind of this unspoken thing that he would never touch her there. And he quickly moved away his hand. That was because he knew that she didn't want him to touch her there. But she ultimately took his hand back and guided it back to her stomach. And it was this really beautiful, powerful moment for both of them because she was so worried that he wouldn't find her attractive if he felt that part of her body. But the reality was that he just wanted to feel close to her and he really wanted to just hold her and she really wanted to be held. I was so grateful that she shared that moment. It was actually the only time in Good Instincts history that I have cried during an episode or a recording. But if you haven't heard it, I really highly recommend going back and checking it out because it was just really special. And I think that it can be really helpful just in terms of us accepting those flaws that we all have. The thing about it is that producing a daily show is a really specific thing, and I had no idea how to do this before we started. It was a little scary to jump right in, and I am so glad that I did, and I've found it so incredibly rewarding. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening and being a part of this ride. Let me know if you have a favorite episode or there are things that you would like to hear more of during the show. I love hearing from you. I always read all my DMs on Instagram at Shira_RD, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to Good Instincts, hosted and written by me, Shira Barlow. You can find me on Instagram at Shira_RD. Good Instincts is a Dear Media daily.